Hello, welcome to this video from OMG Revision. In this video we're going to go through the core knowledge needed for the resource management topic. So remember, there's two parts to resource management. You have the first part, which is to do with this video. So this is the general distribution of resources, think water, energy and food around the world. We're looking at energy security, food security, water security. Some areas have more of these than others. Generally, if you look at HICs and LICs, there's a clear correlation. The second part of resource management is another video, but that is focusing on the challenge of food management. Okay, but you need to know this and that as a separate topic. So these are 28 questions that I've created. I have done this from the specification. Ultimately, if you can answer all these questions, you can fulfill the specification and you can answer any question that they decide to throw at you. So there's various versions of this sheet. This is the one that you're probably going to be most familiar with. Ultimately, each question has got some dual coding, so it's got an image. My face is just covering a combine harvester that will help you hopefully remember the answer to these questions, while also helping you visualize what it is that they want you to know about. So let's go then. My advice for answering these is attempt them first, then watch the video, green penning. If you've got it right, respect, give it a tick. If it's a bit wrong and it needs an edit, edit it with green pen. If you didn't do it because you didn't know it, write it in with green pen. That way you know exactly what it is that you need to revise. Okay, so let's get going. First one, why is food important to well-being? So well-being is your happiness, your quality of life, your health. So a nutritious diet means you are less likely to be ill and suffer from diseases. If you have a balanced diet with minerals and vitamins and a range of proteins, carbohydrates, you are going to have a well-balanced diet. And if you are well-fed, you are more likely to be productive at work, so your economic output is going to be higher. You're going to earn more money and have a higher GNI. Why is water important? So a supply of clean water is essential for people to survive and live a healthy life. So if you've not got access to water, you're going to be very poorly, and within 3 days you could potentially die if you don't have access to clean water. That's going to make your quality of life pretty low. It's also important for farming, thinking watering of crops, irrigation. Another word for farming is agriculture. Industry, so think of factories. The clothing industry, for example, uses an awful lot of water. And finally, energy production. So you could think about hydroelectric power. Why is energy important to well-being? So energy is needed to power our homes. Imagine keeping the lights on, keeping your food chilled in the fridge. It's needed for industry, so think of factories, economic output. And for transport, think of the oil, the petroleum or the diesel used in vehicles to move around. And it's not just moving people around, it's moving goods around, all of which will affect our well-being. Okay? It's essential for economic development. If you're having regular power cuts, your economy is going to suffer. Why do LICs consume less food? So a LIC is a low-income country. They have a lower G and I per head, and they spend a larger proportion of their income on food. So if you think of a pie chart, let's just say for argument's sake that in LICs they spend half of their income on food. If food prices rise by 50%, that half now turns into 75%. So for all the money they have to spend 75% on food. This means that they're going to spend less money on investing in improving their property. They're going to spend less money investing in maybe their work in the primary sector, their rural farmers, less money investing in their farm machinery. So this is going to affect quality of life, and food prices affect people in LICs disproportionately. If food prices go up in the UK, Obviously, we have to cut down on other things, but we can still afford to eat. Why do HICs consume more food? So we have a higher GNI per head, and we spend a smaller proportion of our income on food. So if food prices rise by 50%, yeah, it's a bit miserable when we get to the till, but generally we can still absorb those costs. Okay. In addition, we also have access to a wider range of calorie-rich food. So, thinking of meat, thinking of products such as avocados, and thinking of the kind of fast food and the cheap food that you can buy from supermarkets, it's very calorie rich. Why do many LICs have water insecurity? So water insecurity is not having a reliable supply of clean water. Now, LICs tend to have more extreme climates and less precipitation. This is one of the reasons they may well be an LIC in the first place. Remember our causes of uneven development. In addition, they also have poor infrastructure to treat, store and transfer water. Okay, so whereas every home in the UK has piped clean water to their home, this is not going to be the case in LICs, and there may not be water treatment plants to clean this water after it's been potentially contaminated, or whether it's been, soiled with human waste. Why do many LICs have energy insecurity? So energy security is a reliable supply of energy. Well, LICs are poorer, they have a lower GNI, so they have less money to spend on energy in the first place. Okay? In addition, they're poor energy production, so they may not have access to nuclear energy. There might be a lack of investment in wind turbines and renewables. Coal-fired power stations, if they have them, may be inefficient. But ultimately, it's the transmission. If you live in rural parts of an LIC, chances are you won't have electricity cabled to your home. Right, next one. Give 3 reasons why UK water demand is increasing. So, there's 3 reasons that you need to be aware of. The first one is the rising population. If there's more people, there's going to be more water demand. Okay, and the UK's population is rising. Some of it is due to natural increase, the birth rate higher than the death rate. However, a lot of it's due to international migration. So net migration, the amount of people in the country coming into the country is higher than the amount of people leaving the country. Another reason is more houses. Think of every house is going to have a water supply. Perhaps new houses have got more baths. They might have 2 shower rooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 toilets. And finally, an increase in water-intensive appliances. Think of things like dishwashers or more recently hot tubs. These consume an awful lot of water. Water surplus. So if you have a surplus, you have too much of something. And it's when water supply exceeds demand. So the amount of precipitation is higher than what is required by the amount of people, and we will use the phrase population density, the number of people per square kilometre, to talk about how many people live in an area. Now, Wales has high precipitation levels, but a low population density, hence it has a water surplus. The opposite of this is a water deficit. If you have a deficit, you have too little of something. Okay? And it's where demand, what people want or need, exceeds the supply. An example we can use is southeast of England. There's relatively low rainfall when compared to places like Wales, but it's where most people live. It's got the highest population density. Think of London. There is a solution to this, and it is water transfer. So water transfer is basically building a big pipe or a big canal and moving the water from an area of surplus to an area of deficit. A good example we can use is the Elan Valley in Wales. They have lots of precipitation, they have lots of reservoirs to store this water. They pipe that water to Birmingham, and ultimately they've transferred that water, and if you've had a glass of water today, it's probably from Wales. How can we monitor water quality? So it's We can monitor the quality of water using water quality meters. So you put the meter into the water and it will test for things like chemical contamination and things like acidity. All right. However, this is challenging because we have so many freshwater rivers in the UK. Next one, water pollution. So water pollution is an issue and it is very difficult to manage the UK's rivers and test all of them. One reason is from the water companies themselves during specific periods. If they have excess waste, think of human waste, sewage, they are allowed to put that into rivers. And another example is if you consider industry. So industry will have chemical byproducts, and some factory owners, business owners may want to dispose of this for free in a river. Now, the way we can manage this is impose strict rules and regulations. Okay, ultimately, if they're caught polluting rivers, they will get a huge fine. So it acts as a deterrent to stop people polluting the UK's water. Define the term energy mix. So the energy mix is basically where we get our energy from and how much of each source of energy is providing us with energy at a specific time. So I use a pie chart symbol for this, and at any given moment we can look at the energy mix. We can look at how much energy is being produced from solar, how much is being produced from wind, how much is being produced from gas power stations and nuclear power stations, and any other methods of energy production we have. Okay, if you just type UK energy mix right now into Google, it will tell you and it'll bring up a nice pie chart. 3 examples of fossil fuels. So fossils, dead plants and animals from millions of years ago, under the ground, eventually they will turn into either coal, oil or gas. And those are our 3 fossil fuels. However, using fossil fuels is bad for the environment. If you imagine these plants millions of years ago photosynthesized and they stored carbon in their mass, in their biomass. So when we burn fossil fuels, we release this carbon into the atmosphere, carbon dioxide, and this contributes to the enhanced greenhouse effect. It traps heat in the Earth's atmosphere, and that can lead to global warming. Why do we import a lot of fossil fuels to the UK? So our reserves are naturally decreasing because we have used a lot of our reserves, and it is often cheaper to import fossil fuels from other countries. All right, an example we could use is coal. The UK has a lot of coal under the ground, but it's quite challenging to extract, and a lot of coal mines have been closed. So we import coal if needed or other fossil fuels from other countries. Opportunity of fossil fuels. So although they can be quite dirty, they are reliable and they're not dependent on the weather. Okay? If you've got a gas cooker in your home, it doesn't matter if the sun's shining or if it's raining or if there's no wind. It doesn't matter. You turn the knob on, the gas comes out, you heat up your water or whatever it is that you want to. Okay? So fossil fuels are very reliable and not dependent on the weather. Renewable energy. If you have got a Netflix subscription and, I don't know, maybe you had it for a year, at the end of the year, if you start again, you renew that subscription. Similar with renewable energy. It's infinite and it can keep being renewed. Ultimately, it will not run out. 2 examples. Well, there's 4 here, but the 2 main ones that people talk about are solar power. You see a lot of solar power is being put on people's roofs now to create energy, and wind power. The UK is the windiest nation in Europe, hence we are harnessing the power of the wind. Nuclear energy. So, environmental opportunities and also a challenge. So, nuclear power plants, okay, they use nuclear reactors to create heat, which boils water, turns into steam, spins a turbine. Happy days, we've got electricity. So there's no CO2 emissions. However, the byproduct, the materials that are produced are very toxic and it is difficult to store and manage them. These byproducts are radioactive and you don't want to be around radioactive material. What is fracking? So if you look at the diagram there, probably a little bit small, you can see that there's something being drilled into the ground and there seems to be something happening under the ground. What happens is, because there's a lot of gas trapped in the rock under the ground, we drill down, we pump chemicals into the ground, and that forces out the gas, the shale gas, out of another pipe. Okay? And it's a great way of extracting gas from the earth and providing us with gas to burn for our power stations and our energy security. However, people are concerned because fracking can cause earthquakes, because we're messing with the ground and the bedrock under the ground. It can potentially cause earthquakes, which are not very pleasant for anybody. Also, the chemicals can pollute underground water sources. This means that water supplies can be contaminated. Again, that's not very good for the environment, and if you're drinking it, it's not going to be particularly good for you. Next one, high value food exports. So we import a lot of high value foods. So they're exported from the LICs, imported to the HICs, the UK. Mangoes, who doesn't love a mango? Now, we import mangoes from India, from the Indus River Basin. So if you think to your case study of the Indus Basin irrigation system, it has increased fruit production by 150%. Happy days, let's import that to the UK so we can enjoy it. What is meant by the phrase demand for out-of-season produce? So HI consumers, such as you and I, demand products all year round. The example we use is strawberries at Christmas. So even though products are not in season and can't be grown in the UK, we can import them from other countries where they can be grown. Now this links to food miles. So food miles, the definition is the distance from the farmer's field to a consumer's plate. That includes the journey back from the supermarket. Okay, so if we're importing out of season produce or high value food from other countries, that is going to increase food miles. And I'm going to move my face out of the way, move it over here. This is linked to carbon footprint. So if we're importing food, the vehicles that are transporting that food are going to be burning fossil fuels. This is going to increase CO2. This is going to increase our personal carbon footprint on the planet. In addition, keeping food chilled uses electricity, and production of this energy, this electricity, will release CO2. Maybe it's from a gas powered power station. All right. If you think of your fridge and you multiply the size of that by 100, you can see the scale of how this food is kept chilled. And the final word is agribusiness. Agriculture means farming, business, making money. Now, agribusiness uses chemicals such as pesticides to kill bugs and fertilizers to help crops grow quickly. Okay. They also use machinery such as combine harvesters, and what this does is speeds up the food harvests and reduces need for staff, so it reduces staffing cost. So another word for this is intensive farming, and we watched a video on Latham's farm in east of England, which is an example of agribusiness in the UK. I hope that video has been helpful. Maybe come back to it in a week or two, unless your exam's tomorrow, and test yourselves again. Respect.